let's head into that one there. Now, would you mind if I asked you a non-Doctor Who related question for a second?
No, go for it.
Well, the big news from kind of or one of the big pieces of news from gaming this week was this Ken Levine closing Irrational Studios. You know the guy behind the BioShock games and things like that. And he said he's closed his studio. He's laid or is closing the studio. Seems to be laying a lot of people off with the view of becoming what seems to be a smaller game developer. Does this sound familiar at all?
Yes. So just to be completely honest, Susan was one of the founders of 2K Games, so BioShock was her fault. Ken came to Susan after everyone else turned BioShock down, came to Susan and gave her a 2-page pitch, and she fell in love with it. She loves Ayn Rand. It was totally fan fiction for her.
Oh, really? Well, Susan is without Susan there would be no BioShock. That's a hell of a claim to fame.
Yeah, Ken's a good friend of ours, and I taught at UC Fullerton last year. I taught a 13-week game class on game design theory. And he actually called in for our RPG class, and we talked half an hour on Skype. Yeah, I love Ken. I think he's an amazing guy on so many levels. I wish him good luck in his new endeavor. It's a shame that he had to close the studio down to get there, but you know, I'm looking forward to see what he does next.
Do you sympathise with the decision? Like, I mean, because you yourselves have made a similar transition. I mean, do you?
I totally get it. You know, on the Grand Theft Autos, we had hundreds of people. You know, even the quickest route between me getting an idea on paper into the game is, 10 steps. There's many layers of management. And compare that to now, where I can jump on Skype and talk to you and explain decisions we made this morning. You know, I could talk about how the Tux art was, finished yesterday. You know, we've been going back and forth, and this sort of to get approval to talk about anything like that in a big company is insane. It just doesn't happen. So I'd much rather, be in this situation where I can design the games I want to play, and I can talk to people about the design decisions I've made, rather than a bigger game which is hidden behind a lot of walls. If that makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense. Do you think that, because obviously, I mean, like you said, I mean, Susan's worked on BioShock, you've worked on Grand Theft Auto, is that right? That was one of yours.
Yeah, I produced a few of the Grand Theft Autos, and there's a game called Bully from way back.
Oh,
it's
yes,
called
yes.
Canis,
yes, indeed, the Latin. But obviously, you've moved into the kind of smaller mobile. Ken's now moving over. I don't know if it's going to be mobile, but certainly he's moving to something smaller. I mean, do you think that this could mean there will be a slow transition from, in quotes, big games to small games? Like, is this the way the market is going?
Oh yeah. We've been heading in this way for years. The writing's been on the wall for a very, very long time. What we started to see 5 or 6 years ago was the middle teams in the industry. We have huge teams of hundreds of people, and there's small teams. And the middle teams who would knock out, like Irrational when they started working on BioShock, they were sort of a smaller team. These middle teams started vanishing because people were only buying these blockbusters or started heading towards things like mobile for the lower price point.
Yeah.
So these middle-sized teams, and the industry is very much split now between massive AAA blockbusters and the lower-end mobile space. There's very little in the middle anymore. So you're sort of pulled in one of two directions. You can either go big and join a big team, or you have to go a lot smaller like this and do, these sort of projects. But they are honestly a lot more fun to work on.
I'm just looking at the chat here. There seems to be a lot of people who are BioShock fans. I mean, what would you say to someone that is kind of saying, and I was really looking forward to the next, BioShock game, and I'm, sad that Ken seems to be making this kind of decision. What would you kind of how would you reassure them?
Well, I think BioShock 2 was the weakest of the three, but I thought BioShock 2 was a great game, and that wasn't done by Irrational. That was headed up in Marin by 2K Games in the Bay Area. So there's other teams who can run with this, and there's a lot of great creative guys who've worked on the project that, Ken brings amazing things to it, but I think the brand is strong enough. I think the love for it is strong enough that it can keep going without Ken.
So the end of Ken does not necessarily mean the end of BioShock.
No. They said specifically that the new BioShock projects. I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that new BioShock projects were going to come, but they would come from Take-Two, not from Ken directly.
Now,
they'll be off doing stuff.
Thank you for letting me ask you some off-topic stuff. I appreciate it. It was something I thought came up this week, and I thought, oh, that sounds.
No, as long as everyone in chat didn't get bored and disappear, I'd talk about anything you want to talk about.
No. I think it's fascinating stuff. For those of you that missed last week, I'm using the John Pertwee